Well, funding is always an issue. As you know, no matter what legislative session, even in good years or in bad years, funding is always going to be an issue. I think that as long as the legislature continues to prioritize funding, particularly at the K-12 level, I think the university system needs funding and needs expansion of funding for research. But the K-12 system is really where the rubber meets the road as far as where our children will succeed and whether or not they'll actually be competitive. And I think that the more that we prioritize those dollars into not only what they traditionally call the classroom, but what does the classroom mean? It means really educating a child, providing them with the right tools and the right curriculum to go out into the world and actually compete. And I think if we prioritize the dollars, not into what we traditionally call a system, but rather prioritize them to the child, that is where our efforts will be best served.
Well, another phenomenon that is occurring with children today is they learn not only in the classroom, but they learn in other ways. And I think you're exploring what you call blended education, or blended learning. What do you mean by that?
That's correct. I think that the future of education, both at the elementary, middle, and high school level, but in particular at the high school level, is what's really a blended education model, meaning that it's not your traditional 6-hour school day where you're in a classroom in a desk, but rather a blended model where some of it is taught, some of your instruction is taught in an actual physical classroom, some of your instruction you're going to get virtually. For example, you may have an interest in physics. You may have an interest in astrophysics at a high school level. The county that you live in may not have either the human capital to provide that or the actual economy to be able to provide a teacher to teach you that. Shouldn't mean that you cannot take those 3 credits virtually from, let's say, a physics teacher teaching a lesson out of UCLA on the West Coast. So that concept of a blended model where a child goes to school and gets their credits but doesn't necessarily get it in that traditional format of being in a desk and constrained to that education delivery, I think is the future. And I think we either move in that direction or we're going to create an inequity between students that live in wealthier districts that can perhaps provide teachers of a certain subject area and students who are in a lesser financially viable district that cannot provide outside of the core curriculum, and you don't want to restrict that child from having less of an education.